Well, the first month of 2014 is almost done, and a common question we are hearing is, how are you doing with your New Year's resolutions, right? Well, this morning we have some consumer resolutions that they don't cost a cent, and in fact, they're pretty easy to do. I'm here with Howard Schwartz from the Better Business Bureau. Thanks so much for being here this morning.
My pleasure.
So we've got so many good questions for you. First off, what do you should do in the wake of that Target data breach? I know a lot of people, I mean, a third of the country was almost impacted by this, 100 million people. So what can you do?
Well, I think we have to look at changes to the way we use our debit cards, our credit cards, and go over our statements. First of all, debit cards are a no-no now because you don't need a PIN in order, if someone steals it, they can just use it as a credit card. We have to remember that a debit card does not offer the same kind of protection as a credit card. If somebody gets into there, they're going to empty your bank account if it's your savings or checking account. But going over those financial statements is more important than ever because you'll be finding the first cases of fraud. You also want to make sure, don't just look for large charges, look for small charges that don't make sense because sometimes the criminals will sniff out to see whether your card is still any good. And if one charge gets through, then you can expect larger ones.
Yeah.
And of course, if you find something that shouldn't be there, you call your bank or if you're a credit card issuer right away. And also the same thing with utility bills, because we find out, for example, wireless bills are getting crammed. And this is an old story, but you end up with charges for a service that you never asked for in the first place.
Interesting. Those are probably good practices anyway, especially for the next question I'm about to ask you. What's the single best way to try and save money?
That's a tough one.
I know.
I would say do your research. And that means whether you're going to a website, buying a product, hiring a contractor, those are probably the most important, aside from protecting our identity. And with tax time coming around and so much tax fraud, and that'll be coming up in the weeks ahead, we should really be shredding it if we don't need it and storing our documents. And we've been talking about this for years, but I think people are starting to understand that it's important to protect ourselves and our personal information. The people in that breach had their cell phone numbers stolen, their email addresses, their home addresses, and now the second phase is happening where people are getting emails, phishing emails, or emails supposedly from Target trying to help them out. And what they really want to do is get more personal information.
Oof, that is scary. Yeah, so don't trust anyone, I guess, is the answer. And also, it's never too late to really make a resolution. What are those consumer resolutions? What are things that you recommend to people that they should do for 2014?
Okay. We got a list, if that's okay.
Yeah, that works.
Read the fine print. The devil's in the details, especially when you're going for a free trial. Make sure you understand what the terms and conditions are in terms of cancellation. You want to find out if it's a free trial, what happens is automatically renewed after that and at what kind of price. Get everything in writing. A handshake isn't good enough anymore. Terms, conditions, very important exclusions because people file a lot of complaints to Better Business Bureau because they haven't read the fine print. You also want to keep your computer safe. Now, it's one thing to have anti-malware or anti-spyware, but you've got to update it every week and do a scan. And you've also got to back up your files, and that's something that we don't often think about.
Oh, you're making me nervous.
Well,
I should start doing these things.
It makes me nervous, too.
Just saying them out loud, I'm like, I don't even remember the last time I scanned my computer.
No, that's pretty much the case. When people don't think about it, we do know that we've got to check our financial statements.
Yes.
Pulling our credit report is also so important. Annualcreditreport.com is the government-sanctioned site. That's where you're going to find out whether or not people have been opening accounts in your name, lines of credit. Don't do your business at your front door. And that's important this time of year, especially when we have basement flooding, damage done by storms and that type of thing. If somebody comes around to your door, calls you up, take the information, do your research, and make sure that when you put down a deposit, you've checked out to make sure they are a legitimate business. Be proactive and not reactive. And what that means is rather than responding to solicitations for charity and those types of things, you find a charity yourself, one that you can trust, because people are using look-alike names and look-alike websites for charities.
Those are really great tips. I know we've got even more on our website, things that you've provided. Howard Schwartz, always great information. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.